You know, the story of honey is older than history itself. It's eaten all over the world and people love its rich flavor. There are, lots of physical benefits of honey. But how can there be spiritual ones? Well, welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert, where we even learn from bees. Thanks for joining me. Just pop your behind down into a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and we'll begin. My goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know him and his word personally and better, and have fun doing it. So hang in there with me for the next 5 minutes or so, and then like, subscribe, and share this with a friend, please. Well, when I lived in North Carolina, our family raised bees. We had a couple hives, and I used to enjoy going out in the late afternoons and checking in on the hives. I'd even take my preschool daughter out there with me. She was under a bee veil, of course, and we had fresh honey. Now, don't be overly concerned about the hives, because it's far less dangerous to fool with bees than it is to be with fools. Today's verse says, "Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul, and healing to the bones." Well, honey is essentially pure sugar, and it's packed with antioxidants. Eating it can promote blood sugar management for diabetics. It can even improve heart health. Many find honey a better cough suppressant than most over-the-counter medications, especially for those dealing with upper respiratory infections. And it's been used to heal burns and wounds since the days of the ancient Egyptians. And perhaps most amazingly, it's particularly effective for diabetes-related foot ulcers. Curing diabetic lesions with sugar. Who knew? Well, when God was bringing the people of Israel out of 460 years of Egyptian bondage, he described the land he was bringing to them as a land flowing with milk and honey. Well, the image God wanted Moses and his people to have is one of great provision where all their needs would be met. That's the flowing with milk part. It represents an abundance of healthy animals with several young. A land of plenty, but also a land of sweetness and peace. That's the honey part, because honey's always an extra. It comes from having plenty and then some. When God relieved their shoulders from the burdens of making bricks, he intended to bring them into a deep and close relationship with him. He would be their God, they would be his people. But they insisted on being fools. They turned away from him. They followed after so-called gods their own hands had made. They refused to listen to him, and even then, God spoke gracious words to them. He offered to feed them with the finest of wheat and with honey from the rock. Now there's an image that'll leave most folks scratching their head. Honey from the rock? Well, the finest of wheat part makes sense. The best of the wheat makes the best flavored bread. And having the finest of wheat means that you had so much, you could keep the very best parts and sell the rest, providing both food and income. But what could honey from the rock possibly mean? Well, in that part of the world, a lot of honey came from figs, not bees. And honey from figs is darker, and it lacks the nuances of flavor you get with bee honey. But honey from a rock, that points to a miraculous provision from God. The provision of the sweetest of life's joys, easily placed within your grasp. Because when you found a honey-filled beehive hanging from under the cleft of a rock, there were no date palm trees to climb, nor dates to harvest or press. Just take the honey, the better, lighter, sweeter honey, right from the rock. Well, honey, lesson number 1 for our spirits is that God wants to bless us. First with a deep and close relationship with Him, and then with both plenteous provision and miraculous gifts of joy. And we get these by loving Him. His laws protect us, perfectly reviving our souls. His words are sure, building wisdom into the very depths of our character. And as we follow His direction and see His blessing, our hearts rejoice within us. Now, all these things are better than much fine gold. They're sweeter than honey dripping from the honeycomb. And as we follow God and keep His law, He continues to pour out His reward. But a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, only in expressing his own opinion. Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul, healing to the bones. Honey lesson number 2 is that His sweetness affects us. Yeah, we become sweeter. Fools who used to speak with rash words that were like, sword thrusts, now have hearts filled with godly wisdom, tongues that bring healing. A fool's mouth is his ruin. His lips are a snare to his soul. But the lips of the wise, they spread knowledge. And honey lesson number 3 is that life's hardest tests can produce the sweetest lessons. A wise man once said that just as bees make honey from thyme, which is the strongest and driest of herbs, so do wise men profit from the most difficult experiences. Now, thyme honey, it's fragrant, has an intense taste. It has the strongest medicinal qualities, but its nectar is extracted only by the greatest efforts of the bees. It can take millions of thyme flowers to produce a single pound of honey. When we let the Lord speak to us and impart His wisdom, even the most difficult challenges we face in life can be transformed from bitter to sweet. But a fool lets life's hardships harden his heart. As I mentioned, it's far less dangerous to fool with bees than it is to be with fools. Because the honey of God's grace will turn you sweet, but the bitterness of fools will sour you. So eat honey. It's good, both physically and spiritually. God's words are sweet to our soul. They bring inner healing. And He takes even the things that brought us pain and turns them around. How sweet is that? Hey, as we wrap up, can I ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and help them get to know Him and His Word personally and better? Please like this video, and it'll help more people see it. And then would you click follow or subscribe so you and I can get together every day? And one more thing, share this with a friend, would you? Because as you do, you're part of the team touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thank you for helping.